we're going to continue this charcoal. So we spent about 2 sessions on it so far. And it's come together pretty well in terms of the tonal relationships between different levels of the drawing. So one thing we were thinking about was that atmospheric perspective that I was talking about. But we want to start getting some detail into it as well. So we need to start kind of in each level, in each kind of step of atmosphere, we want to start creating a bit more specificity in terms of edges. Particularly in the foreground, we want to start adding more branches and so on. There's a little bit of a suggestion of it over here, but it's quite minor. So this level of detail is something we probably look for more in the kind of the distant background, whereas we want to kind of push detail up in the front here. I'm just going to get a marl stick, which is somewhere in my studio. Because I've got to a stage in the drawing where if I touch the surface too much, I'm going to start smudging things, which I certainly don't want to do unintentionally. So particularly in this foreground, we've got a lot of quite obvious specific branches kind of coming off these trunks. But also the shapes in the background need to be a bit more specific as well, so kind of sky holes, little holes between portions of the trees that have foliage in the distance. Need to be drawn in as well. So I'm going to sort of do that together. So rather than sort of focus on one and then the other, I'm going to kind of work my way over. My goal is to roughly get a lot of this detail in place by the end of this session. Maybe not quite all of it. In preparation for going in and kind of trying to really push the sense of glow in our next session. We're going to do that by using I'm going to try to use some white chalk and hope that works well. So I'm trying to make sure my branches aren't too regular. If we make them too regular, it starts to feel a bit kind of systematic, and we don't want that. So as I work on specific branches, there are certain places I see there's a little bit more, say, darker tones behind. So starting to get a better sense of foliage in that background. So a slight sense, so don't want to do it kind of absolutely, sort of in too much detail, because we want a sense of atmosphere. But equally, we want to give like a kind of general sense that there's something going on in that distance. So add a little bit more variety into this background tree. So this tree sort of exists at a level where it's become a bit softer. There's a bit of a gradient coming up from the bottom. We want to kind of create a gradient, makes it feel like it's emerging out of the darker depths of the forest. Going to try to get to about the center, I think. You can see it's starting to work better. So we made this center point, the dividing line. There's this tree here that sort of thrusts up into the sky that I want to try to get a bit more specific shape into the foliage of. But it is in that layer of the piece that's sort of a bit further back. I'm going to try to get all my kind of charcoal drawing in and kind of evened out in the next few minutes, because I want to spend the last little section of the video just going in and doing a little bit of erasing, so kind of starting to build up a little bit more of a sense of the light sort of glowing through behind these trees. Quite a lot of different textures kind of that are competing in the drawing. So I want to give a sense of like different clumps and twigs and stuff like that. The twigs are quite different from the clumps. We want them to kind of feel scratchier. So some bits are fuzzy and some bits are kind of sharp and bitsy and scratchy. So trying to build that up, and it's not doing too badly now. So that's starting to work a bit better in terms of layers, levels of trees, like where the trees are and what they're doing and so forth. So we're pretty much there with what I wanted to try to achieve in terms of adding foliage. So I just want to go back in and just pull out a few little highlights in between the trees. Give a slightly better sense of that glow coming through. Just adds another slight dimension, which is good. Yeah, so we'll probably leave it at about that for today. I imagine we have about 2 sessions left, so next session we're going to try to get the right hand side completed to sort of this kind of level, and then possibly start adding, I want to use some white chalk in the lightest portion, so creating a kind of, we're using white chalk, we don't want it to interact with the charcoal, so we need to create a sort of boundary where within the lighter portions of the highlights where we've got white paper, we can start to put little touches of white, and particularly through this area here will be the sort of the really bright glowing section. And then the final session will probably be kind of trying to reconcile all that and make sure it all works well together before calling it a day. That's it for today though. As always, you can follow the YouTube to stay up to date with videos and work alongside. And if you want tuition, you can follow the link through to OCAD and sign up to a big variety of courses that we offer. But yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys soon.